First of all, thank you so much for having me. This is an awesome event. I'm so glad to meet a bunch of other people who believe in XR as much as I do. Um, okay, so my name is Tanvi Agrawal. I use they, them pronouns. I'm currently a full-time MBA student at UCLA Anderson, and I'm going to be talking to you about Reality Check, which is my pilot startup, and it is powering the interactive entertainment industry. I will explain a lot more about that. But just to give you some context, so I grew up in New York City where I was a theater kid, so I'm coming from an entertainment background. I went to UC Berkeley where I was exposed to XR for the first time, and I operated as a creative director working with creative technologists. And then I had a whole career in Silicon Valley as a software sales rep, and only recently did I decide to come back into XR, and so I've been working as a producer at Ferryman Collective, which is a company doing immersive theater in VR. I also recently produced an interactive musical with a research lab here. Some people might be familiar with Remap. It's the brainchild of the School of Film, Theater, and Television and the the Samuel I School of Engineering. They actually opened the show last night, and I would tell you all to go, but it sold out in minutes. So, and then also I have kind of that technical background too. So I was a product manager at a development company, which if anybody's an Unreal enthusiast, you might know Alex Colomb. He runs the unofficial, yes, I work for him. I'm a theater director. This summer I'm going to be a product management intern at Sony Interactive Entertainment. Super excited about that. And I've also participated in MIT Reality Hack and Stanford's Immersive A, which some of you might also be familiar with. Although it looks like we mostly have faculty, or like, it's like, yeah. A mix? Okay, got it. Okay, so what is interactive entertainment? It's everything from live metaverse events and spatial content. So that might be a passive VR film. It could be an interactive holographic AR dance performance like Josh once showed me. And it also includes location-based experiences. So we've been noticing a growing trend in people wanting more interactive experiences these days. And so there's been a huge boom in location-based experiences. And my personal thesis is to combine all of these types of interactive entertainment into one category. So for the pilot business, essentially at Anderson, we have an entrepreneurship track, which involves 2 classes and then a year-long program. And so for the short term, what we're trying to do is just test out this hypothesis of people actually engaging with a platform that is for XR creators. But in the long term, we do plan for it to be a mixed reality platform that can be engaged with in multiple modes. And so the most ideal one would be if we had everybody in headset and they're able to pinch and zoom. And this is very, very rudimentary. We're working on the design. But the idea is that it is an interactive experience for discovering new content. And so as far as, where this idea came from and what we're trying to achieve here, really for me, it was a matter of having been in this industry for a couple of years. I noticed a lot of people were making tools, a lot of people were making games and content itself, but no one was really making platforms, and it's because they're afraid of things like Meta's content store. So I decided I wanted to make a platform agnostic hub for people like me to just kind of log on and find a really cool interactive experience, because nothing like that exists right now. So the primary goal is to increase visibility for creators and interactive entertainment businesses. The second audience is the entertainment seekers, which is hopefully all of us. And I actually am an aspiring content creator as well. So you'll see later I have about 500 followers, and it's been really rewarding to see how many of those people are starting to really believe in interactive entertainment. And that's going to serve as like my base, like my initial audience base to test out, the product. And lastly, in terms of monetization, I am in business school. We do have to think about the money. It's not a nonprofit. And I primarily want to do it based on ads, and specifically AR, VR ads, so that they're actually part of the experience and it's fun for people. And then the same technology would be used for like immersive previews. So in terms of what the product will actually look like, it's taken a lot of iteration. So people talk about the entrepreneurship journey as having all these ups and downs, and it's, really crazy or whatever. It's true. It's really true. The idea has evolved a lot. And when we really dug down into like what mattered, it was this creator visibility. And so as a result, we decided, instead of organizing content based on like genre or type or anything like that, it's going to be a creator first directory. And on that page for that creator is where you can engage with them in multiple ways. Like, you can go to their event or you can download their content, but you can also buy things like a VIP experience because you're a fan. And a little bit more about the product. So you can see on the left side, there's the creator profile. We're thinking there's also going to be an element of kind of hopping around genres, because we are going to be using AI in like the very basic sense of like giving people a personalized experience. But ultimately, we want people to be able to use generative AI to kind of demand their own like on-demand experience. And so a lot of that might end up happening in kind of these like genre hubs. And yeah, as mentioned, things like VIP experiences. Again, this is just something that, like, I'm a millennial. I'm honestly on the boomer side of millennial. Like, I don't know anything about Gen Z, I know, right? And so it's always been interesting to me to see this kind of engagement coming in, because people are really, really interested in being online with their friends, and they're really interested in engaging with their favorite creators. And so there's actually a chance that they're going to buy things like fan experiences, basically. And then I talked about the previews and the ads. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like some things like Digital Fashion Week, but there are big brands investing in these kinds of events now. And for a long time, there have been people messing around with AR ads. So I kind of want to take those same experiences and put it into the preview for all these different types of content. So, if you're trying to experience the Game of Thrones interactive Game of Five musical or something, before you launch into that, you can actually just put yourself in the world and be in King's Landing and being like, do I really want to be immersed in this for like the next 20 minutes? That's the idea. Like I said, business school, so monetization value wise, this is a network effects driven business model. And if anybody like studies business at all, that is like the biggest like recipe for failure or for, disaster, because it is so hard to get people to adopt a new platform. So I do want to emphasize the ambitious nature of this startup. This is why you come to business school. It's why you're able to do it during the safety of your academic institution. This is a really, really ambitious thing, but all of the feedback I've gotten from experts in the XR industry and potential users is that if it works, it'll be really cool. So we hope it works out. But monetization wise, again, like the whole thing is about supporting the creators. So there's no ticketing fee, no profit being made off of tickets. It's all about like taking a little bit off of this fandom marketplace and then mostly using advertisements. This is kind of the last thing. People always ask, so how is this going to be different from Meta or HTC Vive versus any of these content platforms? Again, the idea is that it's platform agnostic. I'm not being a publisher at all. I'm just being an aggregator of information to help people get to the right experiences. Same thing with the current social world. There's always a risk that these platforms like Meta, Horizons, and VRChat are just going to create their own marketplaces, and that's totally fine. I think there's room for many of them, but the idea is that I'm monetizing on a creator page as opposed to worlds. And lastly, as opposed to ticketing providers, there is no ticketing provider right now that caters specifically to spatial content or XR creators, and so there are unique needs that come with that, like engaging with your fans and almost keeping kind of like a Reddit type or a Twitch or a Crunchyroll, that kind of engagement for cool 3D creators. And you can see kind of how it's organized on the left. I won't go into it too much, but we would organize based on WebXR as opposed to downloading apps right now, and that would enable more access. And a little bit more about the market. We have 100 million people out there with headsets, so we're going to try to attack them first, but we will eventually get to more. And then, I won't bore you with these details, but yeah, essentially there's a huge market for it. The opportunity is to bridge the gap, to bring consumers closer to interactive entertainment. And if you want to talk about it afterwards, I have some data on basically the Gen Z boost in interactive entertainment and kind of as a content creator, the other content creators that I'm going to leverage for partnerships, because these are just my friends, but they happen to be really, really well-known XR creators. Yeah, so that's it. I hope I haven't taken up too much time, but do we have time for questions?
Yes, we do. Questions for Tanvi and applause.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful, by the way. I was wondering, what's your take on consumer reaction to VR content versus XR content versus AR content?
Oh yeah, great question. I mean, I personally think that VR is not the future. I think it's, thank you. I think that VR is going to have like very like purposeful use cases that are going to stick around, like things like corporate trainings, being able to have like a difficult conversation with an employee over and over again, being able to practice that's going to be really valuable for corporations like forever. There's always going to be those enthusiasts who want to do VR games and want to be completely immersed. But me personally, I feel like right now people are saying, oh, there's this like dearth of content. And I think that's because there are developers heads down developing mixed reality games and other mixed reality like scavenger hunts, those kinds of experiences. And we're going to see it, but it's going to take time for those things to get developed. Yeah, so ultimately I do think that things with pass through and the ability to kind of stabilize your eyes and not feel that motion sickness, which we haven't solved at the consumer price point, I think that's going to be a lot more accessible than just something like VR gaming. In fact, I think the other place where VR will make an impact is in the social aspect of it. So being able to go to those social worlds like VR chat and events like that. Yes. Yeah, sure. I can just project. You guys can hear me, right? Yeah. I'm a theater person.
Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, how was the Xanadu thing? I got a rehearsal ticket. I couldn't make it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, how was it?
It's awesome. So essentially, Xanadu is the entire musical, like the movie musical, but we have added interactive elements to it. So you had these huge LED panels that people would essentially be able to draw on using their phone. And then we used AI to take those rudimentary drawings and basically create a 3D version of them that's a lot cleaner, and then render those images back on those LED panels over the course of the show. So the audience is kind of co-creating it. Mm-hmm. And then we had kind of mini games as well, like you go to Mount Olympus and Zeus is really unhappy with you, so he starts to throw lightning bolts. And so you have to collect the ones that are good for your Xanadu sign by moving forward, and you have to avoid the purple ones because they're going to take out points and things like that. Just having like any kind of immersive experience requires an onboarding, and so we had our onboarding set in the the story itself. But it's really funny because they describe themselves as part camp counselor and part genius bar, really guiding the audience. But they're like, let's blow on our phones and we're going to call Xanadu. So just ways to interact with the audience. But yeah, it's awesome. Technically, it's a research project for Disney. I think they're probably happy with us and will consider, putting it in their theme parks and cruises. So it's an honor to work on that.
That's cool. I didn't know Disney made it. I didn't know they did the original Xanadu as well. That's cool.
The whole thing, the whole musical. We tried to cut it in half and then got in trouble, and they said you have to do the whole thing. We're really? 2.5 hours. Yeah.
Wow. I love Ferryman Collective.
Really?
with right, and you have like live performers in VR interacting with attendees. Do you see that as something that can scale? I mean, it seems like you can only have a few people in the metaverse at one time, right? And then how is that business model working? Are there big plans for the future? I'm just curious.
Very good question. So for people who don't know, Ferryman Collective, immersive theater in VR. We just premiered our recent show at Venice Film Festival, South by Southwest. These people are really incredible, pioneering a whole new art form, and I'm so glad you know about them. However, the shows, because of the intimate nature of them, because of the technical limitations, are actually only like maximum 6 people at a time. And so it's a really valid question to how do you scale? So as a business development manager, when I joined, when I joined, I realized that they weren't actually doing any public performances. They were just only showing their work in these festivals and like really limiting themselves. And so I did this analysis of like, if we pay the actors for the rehearsal and we charge this much, like, is it even worth it for us to do it? And so what I realized is that you can train up a whole army of actors and then just do them on a, you know, rotating basis. And so you can get 6 people in and out maybe 8 times a day, because actually the limitation with the world is that it doesn't exist. We're in VR chat where you can create a new instance constantly and then delete that instance after the show. So yeah, theoretically, as long as you have the manpower and you have a good show and everything, you can churn out, you know, just the way that theaters do it, you know, 2 show days on a matinee and an evening show. So why not? Have the understudies go on.
I have a question. So you described some great features and functions, but what happens when you suddenly get an ad in the middle of an experience? Many times I just don't buy the product that's being advertised. So you mentioned that that's one of your revenue generators. How is that going to change with VR as opposed to currently what happens with social media? I mean, there must be a different strategy for using advertisements.
Yeah. So
Thank
look,
you.
right now this is novel, right? People will be like, well, like, first of all, I would not put it in the middle of an experience. That would be shooting myself in the foot. No.
That's an exaggeration.
Yeah, let's say it's like right afterwards or right before, like the way that YouTube does it or whatever. Like, it's not interrupting the experience, but hopefully we're going for a wow moment as opposed to like an moment. But these things will get old too, eventually, right? And so some of the feedback we've gotten is, I was surprised to hear this when people said they would pay a subscription for a platform like this. Creators said they would pay a subscription just to know, like, to put all their live events in one place. And so I think there's a version of it that is, you know, what is it, freemium? And you can remove the ads if you want, but like, always I want to keep that barrier to entry low. So if you want to do something like that, I'm not going to charge the $25 that Netflix is charging, right? Like, I'm probably going to charge you like $5 a month instead. So hopefully the benefit of just going with the subscription is good too, and then we have recurring revenue that we can count on.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't put it on here, so please come and connect with me on LinkedIn afterwards. And also, I will force you to follow my Instagram because it's good for you.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much.